We're here today with Muinat Atunnise, founder of Atunnise Clothiers. Thank you so much for making the time to see us and to speak with us and to share your story.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I'm curious, what does Clothiers mean?
Clothiers, we started as a designer hub where you actually create clothes for clients, usually one-offs, so one of a kind. That was how the name started. It was more intimate setting. We make clothes for individuals based on their specific, thoughts and leanings. But we've expanded from being a clothier to actually producing garments for larger crowds and large numbers.
Okay, so what you're doing is creating garments, but in mass production?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So how did you get into that?
Started when I was a teenager. I was quite small, but my mom, she wanted a situation where clothes would last for so long. And I had a younger sister and an older sister. So my younger sister was a bit bigger than me. I was 5 years older than her, but she was on the bigger side. I was the only small person in my family. Still am. So she would say, do you know what, you can wear this for a while and then your little sister can wear it afterwards. So she would get bigger clothes for me so that by the time my younger sister is my age, she'll still be able to wear it.
Yeah.
I hated it. So that, sort of brought my mind to, okay, do you know what? I'd like to make things that would actually fit me rather than being things that I would be so uncomfortable wearing. And I started saving to learn how to make clothes. From there, I started thinking about it. So that was how actually this started. This was just something to get back at my mom. Make something that fitted me so well that nobody else can use it.
Wow, so you actually went to school to learn how to make clothes?
Yes.
And what did your career look like before starting Clothiers?
When I was in the first year of university, there was a long strike, like 9 months or 1 year strike, and that we had to stay at home. That was when I actually learned how to, I actually went to a sewing school. It was a 9-month program, but by the 3rd month, I was making clothes for my friend in school. So I was earning right from year 1 in the uni. And then I did this all through the university. So I actually sponsored myself through school with this. So when we finished, I studied chemistry. I worked in the lab for like 2 years with Nigerian breweries. I was in the research and development lab. By the 2nd year, I knew that, lab life wasn't for me. That, I missed something from, though it started like a vocation that I, would do for myself. It became something that I said, okay, do you know what? Maybe I can make a career out of this. So by the 2nd year of working with Nigerian breweries, I resigned, and then I did a 6-month course in entrepreneurship and started the business. So that was in 2002. After that, I traveled to the UK to do an MBA course, and then came back home. Worked for 6 years. I worked with a health management organization as an underwriting manager. Did this for like 6 years. Then in 2014, I decided, do you know what? I needed to focus on making this work as a business. So in 2014, it became a full-time thing. So we started officially 5 years ago.
And what did that look like? What were the specific steps? You were in school, you were doing chemistry, you worked you said in the lab for like 2 years, you were like, no, this is not working out. Then you did something else, you went to the UK, you did your MBA, you came back, you were working in underwriting for like 7 whole years and so on. And then, but the whole time, this was still...
The whole time I was still doing this.
Exactly, you were
but
doing it
as a hobby,
side.
yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So friends will say, let's make this for me, and I'll say, okay. And I would do it, gladly do it. The joy for me was, oh, it's lovely. Oh, who made this for you? Oh, she did. Oh, yes. Sometimes I would even sponsor it. They would give me the clothes and I would be the one to buy everything because the other job was paying well, but this was my go-to. It was my place. It was my space. So I was always coming back to it. I was always coming back to it until December 2013. Something happened in the office, and then I started asking myself, is this how you want to spend the rest of your life? And then I went to my line manager and I said, do you know what? December next year. And I actually remember the conversation. I said, in 12 months' time, I'm going to resign and I want to go back to making clothes. And I told my mom what that decision was. And I got the same reaction she gave when I told her I was coming back, because that was even another story. After my MBA, I worked in Bupa. Bupa Wellness was a health management organization in the UK. I did one about 2 years in Bupa before coming back home to Nigeria after my MBA. So I was in the sales department, and I was earning so much. I was young, but I was earning a lot. And then I started, earning so much. Okay, what do you want to use all this money for? Invested most of the money, traveled a lot during that period, visited almost a lot of places in Europe during that period. And as I was earning the money, there was this urge. There was something always comes, and then there was always a nudge, and it was like, go back home. This thing always calls me. I don't know why, but it does. And then I told my mom that I was returning to Nigeria to come and start the business all over again. And my mom called my sister. We call her assistant mama, because my mom, she took a while with all of us. She would have the first child and then wait for like 10 years or 12 years and then the next child. I was the only mistake in the house. She had me like 3-4 months after she gave back to my brother. She got pregnant for me like 4 months after she had, my brother. She always spaced our children, except me. She actually wanted to throw me out, but the doctor said no. I was dangerous. So she told my sister, she said, do you know, your sister is mad again. She wants to come back to Nigeria. And it was thick in the middle of recession. I remember that because I actually lost a lot of my investments by the time I came back home. I got a lot of lands, like 4 or 5 plots, all gone. And I had some money stacked in shares. Shares fell in 2008. So a lot of investments I lost. But I knew that the money was not equating to something that I wanted while in the UK. And then I said, I want to come back home. And then she told my sister. My sister called me and said, do you know what is happening back home? There are no jobs, started naming all the things that could go wrong. And I said, there's one thing that is wrong here. I'm not happy. And when I decided to come home, I didn't tell anyone. I resigned and came back home. So she thought it was just the usual holiday, spend like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll pack my bags and then go back. I was lucky, really lucky, in retrospect, when you think about it, because like 3 weeks later, I got a job. And I said I was going to do that job for 6 months. 6 months to plan on returning back to my business. Ended up doing the job for 7 years. Ended up doing the job for 7 years. Because there was a thrill about it. I was working in communities. It was things that, things that drove me. I was traveling to a lot of farming communities, letting them know about the health insurance, because that was the department that I started working in. Was project development with Hygia HMO, but the community aspect of it. So we worked with a lot of farmers, introducing them to health insurance. It wasn't a thing back then in Nigeria. It was more tended towards corporate organizations and individuals with high net worth, but not to, like the company you went to yesterday, the mechanic lady that you saw,
okay.
So we had the lady mechanic was one of our clients then. We got them to, start doing it for their workers. And, that made me, go to a lot of communities. So I was enjoying that for a long time because it was something that also resonated in what I love to do. So it was easy for me to spend those years, But by the time the program ended, because it was also sponsored, it was sponsored by Farm Access, which was, and it was for a period. And I was moved to underwriting. I found that I was back behind the desk, and then I wasn't enjoying that anymore. So December 2013, I told them I was going to spend 1 year. The 1 year was for me to settle everything I needed to settle, work towards things that I needed to start the business all over again, save as much as I can for when the business starts. But by March 2014, something triggered it. I wouldn't call myself someone who is politically correct. I don't think in terms of procedures or this is the way to do things. This is the way, you can't say some things because I say it how I feel it. And, I said it to the CEO who felt threatened by it. And I found that there was something behind the scene to throw me out of the job. And then I thought to myself, if only you know that, I didn't have much by April, but I put in my resignation. December was too long. They couldn't find someone before I left. I found out they had actually been trying to get someone for like 3 or 4 months before I found out. So when I found out, I was like, okay, I was even thinking about you guys. So what am I thinking? If you're going to throw me out like that, so why don't I just follow my path as soon as I can? And that was why I resigned in April 2014. Started the business in May 2014. The first month, I ran out of cash. But something also happened that month. I got a World Bank sponsored scholarship, which also came with some stipends for the business. And everything just fell into place. But something also happened just before that. A headhunter for another HMO was trying to poach me for their business. They didn't know that I'd resigned. And I got this call. I had only 1,000 naira. 1,000 naira is equivalent to like maybe $4. That was all I had on me that day. That was all I had to my name. That day I got that call. And I heard, and the guy said, I remember the conversation, and he said, we would like to have you for a conversation about starting a unit. Something sort of like what you're doing right now. and you have the go-ahead to choose your team and start up the units. And then he started naming all the things, that the perks that came with it. It was double my salary. It was 5 weeks holiday that was paid for. He also came with a car. And I was shaking after that call. I was shaking, thinking to myself, you left this just like a month or two ago. You're broke. Be truthful to yourself, you're broke. And the last people I want to go and tell that I'm broke was my mom or my sister, because of the conversation that happened around the time I was leaving the job. So I called a friend who I call a big mentor. He's been, like a fallback person. And I told him, someone just called me for a job. And it was almost like what I was doing in Nigeria. You know the circumstance around my living in Nigeria. He knows almost everything about, how I started business, because he actually had been trying to get me to start the business like a year before. And he said, you know what, I have a meeting in like 30 minutes. Come to the hotel where I am right now. Let's have a conversation about this. And then he told me how he started his business. He said I was the first person he was telling. He said he never even told his family. Family didn't know how he got to the point where his business was. And then he told me that Chevron is a whole, is like the oil company. He was earning 50,000 per month. He had a family with 2 kids, his wife and 2 kids. His wife wasn't working then, she was in school. And he had 2 kids. 50,000 is like, let's say like $200. He was earning that every month. Then like 20 years ago. And the salary wasn't even regular. And the boss always, anytime he went to his boss for a raise, the boss would say, you can't make anything because of me. I'm doing you a favor by, giving you this job to do and all that. And then his brother, who was also working in the bank, was earning a lot more than him. And then when he decided to start the business, he found out that he was even making less than 50,000 naira. But Shell called him to do a work for them. And then they paid him, like he said, about $1 million that month. But after the contract, they called him that he should come and start working with them. That they were going to give him an office. They were going to pay him so much, And then he asked himself again, do I want to go back into paid employment or really continue this business? That he felt exactly how I felt going back to them and telling them, I don't want your job. You could still go on giving me the consulting job, but I don't want to do a salary job with you. And you know what? They still kept him and introduced him to other businesses after that. So he asked me, he said, what do I really want? The salary or the lifestyle that I, prefer to work with? That if I keep looking at the money, I was always going to be running back. That I had to make that decision. And then he said, I can't make that decision for you, unfortunately. It's easy for him to say, do you know what? Go to do a business. But he doesn't know my business to know how much was going to come out of it or how fulfilled I was going to be doing that business. But it was a decision I had to make by myself. So he didn't call me for like a month. He said he didn't call me because he was afraid that by the time he calls me, I was going to tell him that I started the job. that would really break his heart. He told me like this like 6 months later. But when I got home, I said to myself, yeah, I think he's right. It was the lifestyle I hated. The money would always come at some point. It always does. The main thing was to provide the value and also be able to be happy at what I was doing. I wasn't happy at the job I was doing. The high chance of me being happy at doing that again was really, the probability was really low. But this, I always enjoyed, whether money came from it or not. Now, the main thing was left for me to be able to make something of value out of it, such that people will be able to pay premium on that. And that was the decision. And then I decided I was going to wallow in my, should I say, poor money, my poverty, but happy all the same. And then that was the decision. I made that decision, and by the end of that month, almost everything fell into place. The World Bank scholarship came. I also won a grant from the federal government, and things just fell into place. By the 6th month, I knew that, I always tell this story, I knew that I was going to be fine. Whether I was making so much or not making so much. Knowing that at just that point, when things always seem as if it is low, and there's always something that is going to come after that. And I've always lived by that. This is my 5th year in the business. We've had some low months. They know, I always tell them. We've had some high months that the cash is like, spend me. But, the low months always mean there's also something big that is coming. And it always happens. That's the journey, 5 years down the line. It's been like this. Thank you.
So what does the process look like? How do you create all the garments that you're creating?
In the beginning, it was just me. It was a look around. And then, something was happening around that time, 2014. E-commerce came to Nigeria. So that was the time Konga, Jumia came into Nigeria. And those times, we saw a lot of people, businesses, small businesses thriving because there was a platform for them to sell. There was already a process. All they needed to do was produce or create something for people to, And I found out that, the people, my potential clients were the people who had just started working. I wanted to focus on women and children because we don't get a lot of children, especially for the ready-to-wear. Loads of people who go into the ready-to-wear for children was mainly those that were brought from abroad. It wasn't made with Ankara. Yeah. My clientele wanted something that was Nigerian, which was Ankara, which was the bright colors, the cottons that we love, and we didn't get a lot of that, and that was where I wanted to work from. But I also wanted a situation where they would also be able to wear it while at work, and it was that time when the government made it a bit easier for a lot of people to start wearing things that were actually Nigerian. Before, it used to be shirts, it had to be dark clothes, shirts, plain fabrics, Mondays to Fridays. Yeah. There was a policy they created that made it easy. Fridays, you could wear anything, but so long as it was, you could call it, what would I say? You could easily call it fashion savvy. Okay. It was contemporary, but it was made with African fabrics. So those were the clients I pushed my things to. So you would, see people wearing, shirts that were made with Ankara, or dresses that were made with Ankara, or such of it. Or you see children wearing dungarees or play suits that were made with Ankara. So those were the clients that, I started with. And I started selling on the e-commerce platform. So I was selling on Konga. And then we created our own website. The website wasn't making as much as the e-commerce platforms because they had a lot of money pumped into, the marketing aspect of it. So we rode on that until, it became, okay, we've done this. I said I get bored really quick. So by the second year, I thought, okay, a lot of designers there was a body size that was Nigerian. It wasn't European, it wasn't American, it was Nigerian. And I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning by using the sizes that we could call UK size or European size. So we got a lot of returns. And then I said, okay, so if I'm having these issues, I'm probably not the only one having these issues. I was coming from a background of data while working, as an underwriter. And I always ask, why are you returning this? So we kept, that kept coming. That was what, the feedback was. So it meant I wasn't the only one having that issue. A lot of other designers are also having that issue of sizing. So I started creating what we call the Nigerian size. So we might be smaller up, but the butt that was up, I'm the only one who is not. But a lot of the Nigerian population are like that. You get a lot of people who are a bit thicker, down. And then we created sizing that could work with that. And then it clicked that, I could actually make this for other designers. They don't have to think about producing. We can actually produce this for them. So they can do the creative aspect of it, and then we deal with the operational aspect of it. And then they can focus on the marketing.
Yeah.
So we moved into that. That created another issue, which was the issue of manpower. And then I thought, okay, training could also be incorporated into what we're doing. So they can actually, learn to do this the way, it ought to be. But tweaked towards the Nigerian market. And that was how the evolution came. So we moved from being an individual designer to sort of like the designer's producer. So we are like partners with the designers who come up with the designs, and then we produce for them, and then leave them with the time to do the marketing. So that's how we've evolved in the last 5 years.
So how do you find your team?
Very good question. In the beginning, that wasn't an issue because it wasn't big like that, So it was get people, train them on how we do it, and then we produce. And then when the production started getting bigger, I would say, okay, I'm looking for people. And I found that the kind of people I was tending towards, because that also happened onto me. I didn't go out looking for this. It was like, for example, the first person I got, she just left the secondary school, she decided she wasn't going into the university. She decided she was done with education actually. And she had learned how to make clothes. And I needed someone who could make clothes. And then she came, and I found that there was a block because of that. She knew certain things, but she wasn't able to move past that because she wasn't opening up herself to a lot of things that could happen. And then I had a discussion with her, and she said, "Oh, I'm done with school. I'm done, And then I said, "Do you know you can actually work with me and still be able to go to school?" Because I needed to understand why she, And then I found that it was the funding mostly that was the issue. And then I said, "Do you know what? You can enroll for a weekend class. And then you don't have to go to university if you don't want to, but, choose what you want to do and let me know." And then she came back to me like a month later and then said, "Oh, do you know what? I'd like to go to a polytechnic." Polytechnic is a technical, I don't like to say the lower version of the university, but, they're more technical than theoretical in their thinking. So it's more practical stuff. And then she said that was, she would actually like to do that. And I said, "Fine, let's get you enrolled." And then she did the exams and passed. And then she started working. I said, "Do you know what? You stop working on weekends and you do Mondays to Fridays. And then over the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, you can do the course." And then she did it for like 3 years. And she would come to me and say, "Oh, I have a friend who wants to also be like this." And I said, "Yeah, she can come." And then before I knew it, I found out it was a pattern. It was like, "Oh, I have a friend." Oh, and then it became, "Oh, I have a friend who doesn't do anything at the moment because she can't. She was wondering if she wanted to learn." And then, "Oh, okay, come." And then I would see situations where, a mom would be at home and she would not be doing anything. And then I'll say, "Come." And that became like what's it called? That became how the recruitment process, that became the recruitment process. So everyone that has joined us has a story. And you'll be surprised at some stories. You'll be surprised. Even it surprises me sometimes when I listen to it. I always think I've heard things, and then I hear someone else's story, and then I say to myself, "Wow." Because some people's journey has been crazy. I've had people who have traveled abroad. This Italy stuff, and they would go and the kind of jobs or things that they would do, and then they will have to come to the embassy and say, "Do you know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore." The stories, how they've come back home and things that they've gone through. Sometimes it could be domestic violence. Some would get pregnant and nobody take care of the child, and then they don't have anything to do really. All this, and then the stories. That has been like our recruitment process. So that's how we found our team, really.
That is the most unique recruitment strategy
It's
I
crazy.
have ever heard of.
It's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy.
And how do you train them?
Most of the time, I always prefer that they are open to learning, because that's also a first step. I don't want them to come thinking, "I want to get some money, and this is an avenue for me to get money." Because if that's what they are looking for, I always say, that's what you are looking for, then you're in the wrong place. Do you want to do this? Because if this is not what you want to really do, Then, because I've also had a lot of churns, I've had people who would spend like 2 months and say, this is not for me, and then they would leave. Crazy. And then I started working with an NGO at some point. We found that, maybe I needed to stick to some people in terms of their mindset when they are coming. So I always try to get the mindset of the person who is coming. So for 6 months, after we understand ourselves that this is a lifetime thing, it's not, it's a path to making money, but money is not the focus. The focus is on you getting your dignity back and actually wanting this for yourself because you believe in the dignity of labor. Because this is about labor, it's about hard work, but it's also about development and growth, which was also very key to anybody that works with us. So it's not always about the money. And then I say 6 months, just give me 6 months. And in these 6 months, be open about it. And 6 months, both of us are learning from each other. And both of us are deciding whether we want this relationship to work or not. If I find that you're not in a sort of space where it's easy for you to be open and actually learn, it's okay for you to go. And if I find that also as the case, I can call you up and say, do you know what? This is not working for me. Because they need to know that I'm not skipping them. Because if it's about the money, I don't have the money really, but at least if in their head they're thinking, this is, at least end of this month I'm going to get some money. At least end of this month I'm going to get some money. There's a problem. So 6 months, all the things that we do, they go through it. From the process of cutting the fabrics, looking at the drafts of the designs that the client wants, actually sewing. What part of the sewing do they, do well in? Because there are different machines for different processes. So some people are actually good at just, sewing. Some are in the overlocking. Some with, opening of the button. Some attaching the button. Some in the ironing. Some in, there are different processes in garment production. And then I look at, what they're fast in and what they're interested in. So they go through that whole process for like 5 or 6 months. And after the 6 months, both of us reevaluate ourselves again. So now that you have learned, what do you want to do? Do you want to do this for yourself or do you want to work with us? And that's when, we decide.
What has been your biggest challenge on this journey?
Power. Nigeria is not an easy place to operate, especially when you're into production. I think you brought us luck today. We ran from Monday till Wednesday. We ran for like 12 hours. We ran on generator throughout. We were lucky yesterday. Today it seems it's our luckiest day, really. Because otherwise, 12 hours we run on fuel. Power. And then the manpower. Because these people are sort of younger, you have to get them into a space where their mind is stable enough to decide, okay, this is what I want for myself. Otherwise, they'll keep chasing after something. So we've had a lot of people chasing after something. And when you're chasing, for my own sanity, 2 years ago, I decided I wasn't going to keep chasing. Because as much as I want to help, it's easier for me to find someone who was willing to be helped than for me to try to keep someone who wants to go try something new or check. And I've had some people come back. I've had a few come back, you know. But, you know, those two, manpower and electrical power, two big issues in Nigeria.
You know, Muinat, it's very interesting because I thought that you were really into fashion and local production and all these things, but I think from what I'm hearing, it's maybe, if not as much, could be even more about the development of the people that you're working with.
I like win-wins. As much as I'm into, you know, production, I would love also for the people I work with to know that they are not just waking up and, you know, it's not a rat race. Life is not a rat race. I need them as much as they need me. And I always say it, that, you know, I can't work unless they work. I can't remember the last time I stepped on a machine, but we churn. We have to churn.
How do you keep your sanity?
I run away. That sanity part, oh my God. I refuel. My sister lives like an hour drive away. If I need space, if I need to refuel, if I need to hibernate, I call it my hibernation space. I just go off. You probably won't find me for like a week if I need to. And I take as much time as I need to because it's very important. And sometimes I take a month. Like now, I'm going to take like 6 weeks. But I deal with things. I always think that there are some other things that I want to do for myself. Beginning of the year, I decided, you know, because I acted on stage for a while when I was a teenager. I decided this year was going to be my year of acting and seeing how that goes. And then I wrote a few stuffs and friends were like, you should be doing this. And then I said, okay, maybe 6 weeks I was going to devote to this writing and see how that goes. Just write stuff. My writing had always been when things happen, or when there's a trigger, or when I'm in a mood. And friends have said, no, you can't go far with only when you're in the mood. And Nigeria shows you stuff. Nigeria is a place where you hardly get space to even think of something else. And they said, now that should be your runoff. As this used to be, you know, my space for doing whatever I liked. So eventually that became, the writing became my time away. The acting became my time away. I enrolled in an acting class. And as much as it is fun, it's also been a place for me to just be myself and do what, you know, stuff that I like. So also the writing, which is what I'm taking time off for the next 6 weeks for. Just do that.
What would be your advice to anyone who's living in Nigeria and wants to start a business?
Don't think about it, just do it. Because if you think about it, you will never start. No, you won't start. If you want to do it, regardless of the situation in the country, just do it. Because I was like that. The first year I said, oh, I'll save up some money. Second year I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. Third year I'm like, oh, this is fun. 4th year, the 5th year, I found out that 7 years had gone and I was still thinking about it. Imagine, it took me just 2 months to get it on a paper and a physical space. So this could actually be done at any time. Just do it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.